Thank you for the invite. Apologies I can't be with you. I'm sure it's nicer in Dorchester than it is in London at the moment, and I'm sure there will also be some of you there who would tell me it's always nicer in Dorchester than it is in London. Listen, I'm always pleased to speak at early meetings of newly established PSC branches. As you all know, our long-term strategy at PSC is to build a mass movement for Palestinian rights that takes the issue of the Palestinian struggle for liberation into every arena of decision-making and public life, into parliament, into trade unions, into faith groups, but importantly and crucially, into communities and town centres across the UK, where people gather to go about their business. And what enables us to give fuel to that vision, what makes PSC unique across Europe, is our network of branches. You in Dorchester are one of nearly 80 branches that exist across Britain, taking the work of solidarity to every corner of these isles. You are obviously establishing yourself as a branch at an extraordinary moment. The Palestinian people, and I speak to you as a Palestinian, are experiencing one of the darkest hours in our enduring struggle for liberation. After about a week after Israel launched its assault on Gaza, I watched Newsnight. And I remember hearing something then that chilled me to the bone, something that at that point I could not bring myself to accept as a possible reality. An American military analyst was asked this question: how many Palestinians do you think may be killed in Gaza, he was asked, before there is any serious international pressure on Israel to call a ceasefire? And he gave what was an honest and reasoned and cool assessment. He did a calculation based on how many Israel had killed at that point, and at that point it was killing Palestinians at the rate of about 1 every 6 minutes, and Palestinian children at the rate of about 1 every 10 minutes. And he compared that to the rate of killing in Gaza in 2014, when over 2,000 Palestinians were killed in a 52-day period. And he came up with a figure of about 20,000 deaths. And I remember thinking that is not conceivable. Despite decades-long willingness of Western leaders to allow Israel impunity for its enforcement of military occupation and for its establishment of a system of apartheid across all of historic Palestine, systems that rely on the routine and ongoing use of brutal force, I didn't believe that this complicity would easily extend to a willingness to stand by whilst a wholesale massacre of tens of thousands of people was enacted. But here we are, 56 days into a military assault. Over 15,000 Palestinians are dead, including more than 7,000 children, and more than 7,000 are missing, presumed dead under the rubble of their own homes. So Palestinians need our solidarity more than ever. And what we have witnessed in the midst of this horror and in the face of this deep complicity from our political leaders are the most astonishing displays of popular solidarity. A few days ago, on the 29th, on the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian Speaker, I spoke at an event in Westminster, and I spoke about what solidarity means, and I want to share just a few of those thoughts with you. It's a word I think that we often use unreflectively, but for me, solidarity begins as an act of empathy, as an act of love. It begins as a recognition of shared humanity with people suffering oppression or injustice, and it seeks to deliver a message to those people. We see you, we hear you, We share your pain. We stand with you. It springs from an acceptance of a moral imperative, a belief that an injustice to anyone, anywhere, is an injustice to everyone, everywhere. But real solidarity calls us to action. Real solidarity is love made political. It accepts the principle that unless we take action to address an injustice, then we become complicit in allowing that injustice to flourish. Now, in the past few weeks, as you know, alongside the marches in London that PSC has been organising of unprecedented size, some of the biggest marches in British political history on any issue, alongside the days of action we have been organising that have seen people marching and protesting in towns and cities across the UK, and I know including in Dorchester. Alongside all of that, we have seen a flowering of other astonishing acts of solidarity across all corners of British life. We have just seen or heard a reference to the school children walking out of their schools to join protests for Palestine. Let me share just one such moment that touched me deeply, not just as a solidarity campaigner, but as a Palestinian. About 3 weeks ago, on a Sunday, I took a day off, my first for some weeks, to walk with my family. We went to Hampstead Heath and ended up on the top of Parliament Hill to enjoy the view. Some of you will know it. It's a spectacular view. When we got there, we came across hundreds and hundreds of people, maybe more than 500 in total, flying kites. And then my wife said to me, look, many of these kites are in the colours of Palestine. Someone wearing a keffiyeh recognised me, called out my name. When I asked what was going on, she said that two young women, who I then met, had wanted to do something as an act of solidarity. They discovered that in 2011, children in Gaza had broken the world record for the most amount of kites flown simultaneously, 12,500 kites. So they created an event on Facebook, Kites in Solidarity, advertised it, and to their amazement, over 500 people from all over North London turned up to participate. And now, 3 weeks later, they've organised a whole series of similar events that are happening across the country. Just one simple act of solidarity that is now flourishing. So our task, all of us at this urgent hour, is to take the energy that flows from that wellspring of empathy and love and channel it into sustained activism for Palestine that can affect real political change. Right now, the urgent task remains to create pressure for a permanent ceasefire. But we also, as a solidarity movement, know this: that when a ceasefire is called, as it will be eventually, when even our political leaders can no longer stomach the amount of Palestinian blood that has been spilled, we will then need sustained action to address the root causes of this current violence. Israel's ongoing military occupation and imposition upon all Palestinians of a system of oppression now widely and accurately recognized as a system of apartheid, a system of oppression built on one principle, that across all of historic Palestine, within the state of Israel, across the occupied West Bank and Gaza, some people, Israeli Jews, have rights and others, Palestinians, do not. That set of values, that mindset, leads inevitably to the genocide we are seeing unfolding in front of us now. Apartheid, like any system of racial domination, can only be sustained if you dehumanize those you oppress, if you cease to regard them as people. And when you allow that to run unchecked, when you normalize it, as our Western leaders have, you end up in the place where we are today, when the Israeli public is happy to in a government of far-right extremists, even self-declared proud fascists, ministers who, prior to the current horrors in Gaza, openly called for Palestinian villages in the West Bank to be wiped from the face of the earth. Ministers who now, given the cover of acting in response to Hamas's actions on October the 7th, openly call, as Israel's heritage minister has, for a nuclear bomb to be dropped on Gaza. Openly call, as Israel's deputy speaker has, for Gaza to burn. Openly call, as openly define Palestinians, as Israel's defense minister has, as inhuman animals, and openly state, as has Israel's president, that all of the people of Gaza are accountable for the actions of Hamas, that there are no such things in Gaza as innocent civilians. Openly call, as has Israel's agriculture minister, for a second Nakba, for Palestinians to be driven en masse into Egypt, and openly welcome, as did the former head of Israel's National Security Council, openly welcome the possible outbreak of major epidemics in Gaza, because this will kill more Palestinians more quickly. So what is required of us then to turn solidarity into campaigns that will bring meaningful change? Well, we are a solidarity organisation, and as such we take our lead from the Palestinian people. And whenever we ask Palestinians, including those across Palestinian civil society, what they demand of us here in the UK to show true solidarity, to turn empathy into meaningful political action, then the answer is always the same. End your complicity. Take action to end the complicity of your governments, which for decades have shielded Israel from accountability for its egregious violations of international law and Palestinian rights, and continues to lend diplomatic, political, economic and military support for Israel's system of apartheid. End the complicity of your public bodies, including pension schemes and universities that invest millions of pounds in companies arming Israel or supporting its infrastructure of illegal settlements, and end the complicity of those companies themselves like JCB, Puma and Barclays Bank. So that is your task now as a branch in Dorchester, to bring all of the mobilising happening in your area to act, the mobilising of people to act to stop the current slaughter, to bring all of those people to join you in taking forward campaigns, to lobby your MPs on a continued basis with demands such as calling for an end to the sale of arms to Israel, an end to the import of all settlement goods into the UK, to join the days of action we will continue to hold, targeting companies like Barclays and Puma to force them to end the complicity, and to call on public bodies, your local councils, your universities, not to invest in companies that support Israel's system of apartheid. Let me conclude by saying this, and by delivering to you the same message I delivered in Whitehall to our march 2 Saturdays ago. A message to the Palestinian people in this dark hour in their struggle for liberation, and a message to our political leaders that we, as solidarity activists, will never stop marching. We will never stop protesting. We will never stop boycotting until a ceasefire is called, until the occupation is ended, until apartheid is dismantled, and until the day arrives when we stand shoulder to shoulder with our Palestinian brothers and sisters in a new world, a better world, a world in which the sun will finally rise over a free Jerusalem, over a free Jaffa, and over a free Gaza. Thank you.